Okay, good morning. Yes, I was a whirly ball irregular, no doubt about it. Let's see if we can get this going. Okay, that's nice. Now, which one's project?
I think it's Control P. Okay. No. Okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. So
Okay.
it's the version of Ubuntu, I don't know which version.
Okay, so the first thing people ask me when I stand in front of a room like this is, you have a sports coat on, John? NANOG is a big part of our community. So, let's go. What do we have that's been happening? First, a reminder, 4-byte ASNs. Can I ask a question here? Because we've been flogging this horse for a while. Who here doesn't have a 4-byte ASN? Okay, that's not problematic because you probably already had an ASN. Let me ask a more important question. Who doesn't support peering with 4-byte ASN BGP speakers? Okay.
Are you serious now? Yes, I am.
Can we at some point figure out how to fix that? I guess I'd say fix that, Matt. So the reason I ask is the statement at the bottom of this. You know, we've issued 69 4-byte ASNs. 42 of them have come back. And all of them have said, Matt said his router won't support 4-byte ASNs. Okay? I can't come to any other conclusion. Okay? So I presume everyone supports 4-byte ASNs. If you do not support 4-byte ASNs, it's very important. We actually have enough ASNs to get the job done if we count ISPs. We do not have enough ASNs to get the job done if we count enterprise, okay? A lot of organizations that want to have an ASN, and they're not all going to get 2-byte ASNs. Okay, next one. Who is traffic? And that graph actually displays, but it's very hard to see. I'll tell you, the far right side, sort of as it goes up asymptotically towards the heavens, is our who is traffic. And over the last 6 months, it's gone through the roof. We've replaced the who is back-end system, put a who is proxy to answer the port. And the fact of the matter is that when we did that, we respond to queries quicker, and we get more queries, a lot more queries. To the extent that you are writing software that does who is queries on an automated basis. And I'll be nice. Let's presume it's an IP management package or it's your back end for doing customer assignments or something. You might want to find someone from the Arin engineering department and just have a dialogue about port numbers and query rates and things like that. If you're writing software that you're embedding in everyone's laptop or PC that does who is queries, you should probably hide from me because someone's doing that, and we're not going to be able to keep up if every machine out on the internet is doing who is queries all the time. We're only a single set of servers, so we do need to fix this. If anyone has any ideas on what this is, we have traffic flows. We've looked at it. The source addresses are all over. They're not any particular pattern. We've looked for bots. We haven't had any success for correlation with that. Some people suggest it's a PC startup or Mac startup, someone's device driver or DLL. But in any case, we're keeping up. All I can say is that Mark keeps buying hardware, and I keep saying yes. And so we'll keep up with the traffic. But we don't expect people to be embedding this in software that's out there in everyone's end computer. That certainly wasn't the intent of the operational who is database. If you're doing something like that, you definitely need to talk to us, because we'll have a scaling problem long term. Okay, Yeah, so we replaced whois with the RESTful interface. Major upgrade, very efficient, more consistent with the existing documentation. No, not the existing practice, just the existing documentation. The pilot is available if you want to take a look at it. We have documentation that describes the changes. We put a listener on port 43 for existing queries, and it passes things through. It uses RESTful technology. We will eventually turn on write access via this. So again, if you're writing back-end systems or IPAMs or provisioning systems, you should begin looking at this. This is the interface we'd prefer you to use over SWIP, because we all know how reliable SWIPs are. They work all the time except when they don't, and then they work very quickly and very poorly. So we'd really like this. You get a little more state information. You have far more granular control. If you have feedback on this, I'd like you to make sure Arin's engineering department gets feedback on what you think of the RESTful interface. If you're not getting good responses, then I want to know about that, because, well, obviously we're not serving the community. I think we're doing a good job. I think the interface is useful. We are working out quirks, and the reason that we haven't turned it on is we're actively seeking feedback, okay? That's the whole point. I see Arin coming up. You coming up to a microphone, Arin? Or just getting a drink? I'm suspecting he's one of the guys using this. Okay, specified transfer listing service. Arin has a policy called the specified transfer policy. It goes in NRPM. It's in section 8, and it basically says party A can designate a transfer to party B as long as party B qualifies according to needs-based requirements. How does party A and B find each other? Well, we had a lot of discussion of that. And there's a listing service. If you have resources that you think you could, re-engineer and free up an address block and make it available to someone, I'd like you to return it, but plan B is you can list it in the listing service. Likewise, how do you find people, if you have a need, how do you find someone you could provide that to? They're also in the listing service. Someone who has a documented need, so you've been proven out. You need a /14, Arin doesn't have it. We put you in the listing service. Someone who might be able to satisfy that will find you. My most popular question, how many people are in the listing service today? Well, none. Realistically, we've still got addresses. So everyone who asks for addresses, when they satisfy their need, the next statement is, do you want them? We have them available. At some point, we won't be able to say we have them available. And that means parties that need resources will be listed. So what do we end up with? 2 columns. We end up with a list of people who think they have resources they can free up. Might take some work, who knows? And we have a list, a column of parties who need addresses. How do they get matched up? They don't. Not our job. We are not a matching service. People can do anything they want. They can call people by looking at the information there. They can use eBay. Not my problem, okay? But at the end of the day, when 2 happy parties show up in hand and want to transfer their resources, per the policy, we'll do it. Now, this does mean that everyone can, when you run out of resources, when we run out of resources and you need more, you're going to be able to qualify for need just as if we had addresses. You'll get your next, well, actually your next 12 months, because the allocation policy says you get 12 months, not the current 6 or what will be 3. And you'll have a need, and you can go to the listing service, you can find someone who has addresses, you can effectively transfer the addresses you need. But you can only get the amount you qualify for, which means you're still only going to get 12 months at that point. This doesn't solve the V4, V6 problem, folks. It gives you a little more time to get your act together. It might be the savior of some people's job if you haven't been looking at V6 up till this point. You might be able to buy a couple of extensions, but it's not going to solve the problem permanently. It does let parties that need more time or are waiting for equipment vendors to have an option to get resources for that purpose. Full details available online. Okay, public-facing development efforts. We got a lot of things happening. Arin Online is our online interface. I think a lot of you have used it. You want to see what we're adding to it. The roadmap of development is online. You can see what we've checked off and what's in development and what's to be coming up. We have a lot of capabilities and able to go in, create organizations, point of contact, manage contacts, and it's long-term. It will be the interface that you use for all your Arin interactions. New templates. Part of changing Arin Online required actually having a schema for our database that actually reflects reality. When you go back and look at that, you find out that the way we were doing DNS servers was not hierarchical. It didn't actually reflect reality. And so we had to tweak the templates a little. So the SWIP templates that you use actually get processed a little differently. If you're submitting templates all the time, you might want to go read about these, because we did have to change the existing SWIP templates a bit. They're mostly compatible, 90% compatible, but there are some changes. Long-term DNS record management, again, will be through Arin Online. DNSSEC, speaking of DNS, the root of the DNS tree has been signed, so that's a wonderful thing. The RIRs are busy working together and with IANA to get inatter.opera signed appropriately and in place. And we're in the process of doing the linkage that you'll need to sign your inatter zone. So if you're running DNSSEC, you'll soon be able to generate the DS records you need and have them in the adder zone, the inatter.opera zone that we operate. So very good feature coming up at the end of the year. Another end of year, RPKI. Some people know what it is, some people don't. Resource certification, the ability for you to turn around and have a digital certificate which says you're the holder of a resource. In turn, lets you sign other digital items, like here are the parties that can route my record. We intend to roll this out. We're rolling it out first, managed via this interface. Anyone on NANOG right now, probably is still a running gun battle between people on the NANOG mailing list about why you'd want someone to manage your RPKI. The reality is some people find it challenging, either operational or in terms of just the logistics involved. And so we'll operate it. Coming up in the first quarter of next year, if you're running your own certificate authority, we will do the linkages, the up-down protocol as it's called, to let your certificate authority interface with ours so you can have a hierarchy and you can run your own RPKI, do your own certificates. Particularly important about people doing lots of allocations. I know the other IRs are on a similar track. This is one of the areas where we're doing some fairly close engineering coordination. Outreach. I don't know how much people have seen our outreach. So this year we've done lots of outreach. Dozens of interviews and speaking engagements that I've done, Richard Jimerson, the staff. We actually tapped the advisory council and the board to do some of these. It can be a lot of fun. We recently had a significant amount of outreach. Last week, Tuesday. Last week, the U.S. federal government actually had a meeting downtown at the Press Club and announced the U.S. federal CIO and U.S. federal CTO. Anish Chopra and Vivek Kundra announced the U.S. government moving to IPv6 because of the IPv4 depletion problem. All federal websites will be moving to IPv6 in addition to v4 by September 2012. If you happen to be serving a federal agency, you might hear them asking now about v6 because they're interested. If you're a vendor, you probably will have federal customers asking about v6 support. It's a pretty significant decision upon the federal government. There's no mandates for industry to do anything. That's not generally how it's done in the U.S. In the U.S., they tend to change what the federal government procures, and hopefully industry will follow. So that's a good sign. People should recognize that that will increase the visibility of the need to deploy IPv6 in a dramatic way. We continue to have the online slide deck, IPv4 v6 depletion adoption. You can use this slide deck. It's available online. Download it, change it, present it. We've had people present it a lot of places. If you want us to come, we can try, myself or Richard or one of the staff can come out, or you can do it yourself if you need to explain to people in your organization why we're running out of v4 addresses and what's next. We also have the IPv6 wiki, getIPv6.info, online wiki that you can edit for implementation experience. To the extent that you see a cool presentation on IPv6 and sort of the trials and tribulations, or if you have your own materials, feel free to put a linkage up on the wiki. Feel free to look there if you're looking for implementation slides and experiences. Policies. So we've also been busy this year with policies. We have implemented the following 3 policies in September. Initial IPv6 allocation criteria for allowing multi-homers to get /32s. Reduce the IPv4 end user minimum assignment to /24 with a renumbering requirement that's built in. This is something important, folks, for people running filters. These are changes to minimum allocation size. And it changed the M&A transfer policy, made easier, but it also has clauses specifically that say return your unused resources. Adopted and pending, the waiting list for unmet IPv4 requests. There's a theory that there could be people who need addresses who don't think they're going to be able to get them on a market, that are just going to wait, and maybe addresses will be returned, and we should have a waiting list. This implements the waiting list. It's a fairly complex policy. It's going to be a lot of fun to implement, because that will match up. If you're on the waiting list for IPv4 addresses when we run out and a block gets returned, there's an algorithm to determine who ends up getting that block or pieces of it. It's going to take a bit for the staff to digest that. Luckily, we still have addresses, so there's not a need for a waiting list right now, but we'll have it implemented timely early next year. Current draft policies. So I know a lot of you are going to leave here Wednesday, and you're not going to hang around for Arin. I figured I'd give you a little insight. You may think that the policies discussed by Arin don't affect you. Obviously, they do, as you can see by the prior slide. Let me give you an idea of what's coming up that you might want to participate in. If you can't stay, remote participation is a great option. Increasing the IPv4 reserve for facilitating IPv6 deployment. Having IPv6 allocations for 6RD. Having an IPv6 allocation policy specifically for transition technologies. Cleaning up and restating the IPv6 assignment criteria. Having a global policy for IPv4 allocations in the IANA post-exhaustion period. Standardizing IP reassignment registration requirements, cleaning up some information about who is, etc. And required resource reviews. Right now, staff has discretion of whether we do a resource review in certain circumstances. This would make it specifically directed. Okay, one other important thing. Arin is in this region a participant in the NRO. The NRO has a numbers council. It's also called, it serves the role of the ASO-AC, the ASO Advisory Council, within ICANN. That group helps coordinate global policy and helps make sure that we, when we bring a policy to ICANN, it's been appropriately reviewed by all of the regions. We have 3 representatives in that region, and each year one of them is up for replacement. This year, there is an opportunity to vote. If you have registered for NANOG prior to 9/21, you can vote in this. Votes will close in 2 days at 5 p.m. So anyone registered for NANOG can vote in this. You should vote. It's to vote for someone for the Numbers Council. It's an important part of how we coordinate global policies. I ask everyone to pay attention to this. You can go online. You'll see links to it. Okay, upcoming Arin meetings. We have 2 upcoming Arin meetings for next year. We'll be in Puerto Rico again. That'll be wonderful, in San Juan in April. I welcome everyone to come on down. That's not a joint meeting, obviously, because we've been doing joint meetings in the fall. And then in the fall, you've already heard about NANOG's meeting. If you were here yesterday, we have a joint meeting with NANOG in Philadelphia in October. So I'll see everyone else at least in October, if nothing else. References, you want to look more on policies and proposals and policies, you can go online, Arin policy/proposals, index HTML. Mailing lists, of course, we have the mailing list where we discuss these, and that's at arin.net, participate, mailing lists, index.html. Thank you. We hope you'll see you at the Arin meeting in the second half of the week, and I'll take any questions that anyone has. Rear microphone.
Sorry, Kathy, I beat you here. This is a question that probably should be addressed to somebody in the federal government. Oh, Kevin Oberman, ESNet. Can't believe I forgot to do that. Anyway, just getting senile. The federal requirement for IPv6, which I was delighted to see, have you looked at it to see if they were careful enough to avoid agencies weaseling their way around it by doing tricks like they did when they were required to have IPv6 connectivity to their backbones a couple of years ago? Right. Specifically, I'm worried they will bring up their public-facing services with slightly different IPv6 only names so that they really don't have to have them working very well because they figured nobody's going to really be touching them, so they can sort of hide them and forget about them and not really worry about IPv6 beyond getting it to where somebody downloads a web page once and they declare victory.
Right. So the answer is, as people might know if you were involved in the federal government, the U.S. government in 2005 had a memorandum that said you have to run IPv6 in your backbone. And in 2008, all the agencies had approved that. So they all brought up their IP connectivity long enough to do a ping, printed out the ping test, and then shut down V6. To some extent, given the state of security equipment, firewalls, some routers, CPU code paths, that actually was prudent in a lot of cases. This is actually a statement that says on an ongoing basis they will have their services available via IPv6. Additionally, there's a second requirement, which is by 2014, internal services will be running on IPv6, which I actually am not sure. The task force is still defining those. So this is not a go taste IPv6 and walk away. This is U.S. federal government has said it's moving. Everyone needs to pay attention. Does that answer your question, Kevin? Kathy.
Hi, I'm Kathy Aronson. I'm on the Arin Advisory Council. I don't really have a question, but I have two comments. One, there's a whole bunch of us here from the Arin Advisory Council, and if you can't make it to the Arin meeting and you have feedback on one of the proposals, just find one of us. I think we're all 15 of us are here. The other thing is the Arin meetings have a really, really great remote participation component where you can actually ask questions and participate remotely. So if you can't make it, please participate. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. Any other questions? Thank you and enjoy your day.